You've played Jesus in a blockbuster production that won awards across the board, and now you're stepping into John Farnham, the voice that defined Australia. Now, they are two completely different icons, but two voices that changed people in profoundly different ways. So, I'd love to start off by asking you, do you ever sit back and wonder why you keep being trusted with roles like these?
It's a very good question, considering I'm never done theatre in my entire life. It's a bit of a wild. Your guess is as good as mine is probably a good way to put it. I'm very thankful. I just, I hope that when you get given a role and you're given an opportunity with responsibility and expectation, you just want to sort of rock up and do your best and make sure you don't be shit. You know what I mean? So that's my aim, is just to give it my best and hopefully pay back people's faith in you.
Mhm. No, you're definitely not shit, mate. You're doing a really great job. A lot of people listening can remember the very first time they heard Whispering Jack, the sound that became Australia's soundtrack. But I want to know from you, do you remember what that record meant to little Michael Paynter? Like, what was your first initial reaction?
Well, that's a good question. I was very little when Whispering Jack came out. I was actually born in 1986.
Right.
So it's the 40th anniversary of Whispering Jack. It's also the 40th anniversary of me. So I don't have memories of it coming out.
Yep.
I was still coming out in
Yep.
1986.
Fair enough.
So, but I do remember obviously growing up in Australia. Anytime post 1986, you're living in a Whispering Jack world. So I do have a lot of memories of the songs being obviously completely ubiquitous and in culture you can't really escape it. So I've definitely got those memories, and I've sung many songs from that record at many different events and live opportunities in my life, and I've been singing them. God, goes back as far as my memory will take me. I've been singing Farnham songs.
You've publicly called John Farnham the gold standard. He's the voice that instructed your entire career. But I'm curious, what does gold look like to you now? Is it vocal production? Is it the honesty, or is it something else entirely?
I mean, yes, and all of it. I
Yep.
think that I think he's just one of those rare birds, mate, from a different era that I like myself better with auto tune. That's how I like listening to my voice. But
Yep. Okay.
John is from the era where you don't need it. He's just a different type of singer. So he he is just power, um, dynamics, tenderness, um, uh, humility, bravado, um, accuracy, emotion, um, all in one. You listen to him singing "Bridge Over Troubled Water" from the '60s, or you listen to him singing "It's a Long Way to the Top." If you want to rock and roll in the '90s, and everything from like literally crooning to being Bon Scott and everything in between. There's nothing he can't do. And I think anybody that would say that he is not the best singer that this country's ever will produce, I think you got
It's wrong.
screws loose. So, and I'd like to know who your second suggestion is.
Absolutely. I think he's one of a kind. A lot of artists
Yeah,
today can take a lot of notes from his book.
definitely.
You've described stepping into the John Farnham musical as a once in a lifetime opportunity. I imagine it's an honor so profound it's hard to put into words, especially after your massive year as Jesus and Jesus Christ Superstar. But these kinds of roles, they don't just land, they demand readiness. So I want to know from you, what's something in your own life that you had to let go of to be ready for?
Outside of theatre, you mean?
Yes.
One thing I had to let go of to be ready for something. I mean, look, I think for me, when I started becoming a songwriter and a producer and started to find a bit of success doing that, there was a lot of my own career that I had to let go of. I think that it's very tricky to be, um, signed to Sony, touring the world like I was, playing the types of shows that I was, um, and all the TV and all that sort of stuff that goes with being an artist in your own right, and also rocking up, putting in your 10,000 hours behind a laptop, working with artists, trying to bring the best out of them. They're two quite tricky things to have simultaneously exist. So yeah, I think that as my songwriting and production career sort of started to sort of blossom, my own career started to sort of take a bit of a dive, and that was that's a trade-off I was happy to make.
You know, musicians, they spend lifetimes chasing that perfect moment of finding the note, the one that cracks open emotion and hangs in the air. And actors, they talk about finding the truth, that raw human core that makes a character breathe. Now, in Whispering Jack, you're doing both at once. So I'd love to know, where do those two things intersect for you?
Look, I think that when you're on stage, I think that there is a similarity between singing and acting in a way that you need to be present. And I think you need to be completely committed to what you're doing. And I think that in both singing and acting, you can tell when somebody's not really invested and when they're not really connected to what they're doing. I think that comes across as not genuine, and I think you can see through it straight away. So I think that, growing up, obviously I wasn't an actor, so I didn't really know what was involved, but I did know about somebody would come and see a show and say, I didn't really move me tonight. I didn't really feel connected. So I think that I learned from a young age that you've got to be connected, and you've got to be real, and you've got to find something true in what you're saying or singing and connect it to yourself. And as I've stepped into the theater and started becoming an actor as well, it's there's a lot of similarities. So I always say to the other people in the cast, I'm always asking them for advice and saying, I'm not an actor, I can't act. I'm like, well, you are an actor because we see what you do when you perform and sing, and it's exactly the same thing. You're saying words instead of singing them. So there is a lot of difference, but that's one thing that's definitely similar between the two.
You know, when people talk about John Farnham, they use words like resilience and power and heart. But I want to flip the switch here. What word would you want people to use when they talk about Michael Paynter?
Oh, that's a very giant question without notice. One word. I would like to say probably um I'd probably say real or honest. I think that when I sing, I like to approach it that way, in a real way. I'm not trying to present anything that's not me. I'm just trying to be me. And I think that when I was doing Jesus, that's how I tried to maintain, is to stay present, to stay real and honest. And when I deal with people, in a business sense, or when I'm doing contracts, or when I'm working with an artist and trying to help them develop their own skills, I think being real and being honest is the most important and powerful thing that you can do.
Michael, I want you to picture opening night of Whispering Jack. John Farnham himself, he sits quietly in the back row of the audience, watching you become him. What reaction would mean the most to you?
Or I would look, I think the ultimate aim would be that he would feel that he was honored, that he wasn't mimicked or impersonated or copied. I'd like him to feel seen and understood by the audience through my performance. And I would like him to feel honored and celebrated. And if he can come backstage and feel the the love and support of that crowd in that theater that night, and that can sink into him, that's really, they're happy that I'm, obviously you want them to be happy with my performance, but the real reason is that you're pointing them to him. So I would love him to be backstage and to be aware of how much the country loves him, and how important he has been to music, and how important he will be forever to music. That would be wonderful.
I'm sure he won't be disappointed. No pressure as well, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, definitely.
Definitely. You're coming to Adelaide on Wednesday, the 4th of March, Garden of Unearthly Delights. It's a 9 p.m.
Yes.
show, one night only, means no holding back whatsoever. But I'd love
Two
to
shows
know
on a one night though, so that's going to
two
be interesting.
shows.
Got to save my voice,
Yeah.
get through two shows.
Gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
What's the one classic you've saved specifically for that shared spotlight? Is there a song that you really can't wait to perform
In Adelaide,
in Adelaide? Yeah.
Look, I'm not giving away the set list because a lot of it is a surprise.
Okay.
But I think the guest performer that I have for Adelaide, I think people from Adelaide will love it. That's all
Yeah.
I'll say. I think that it's going to be a very Adelaide guest.
Gonna blow our socks off.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a person that I have sung with many times and worked with many times, toured with, who I love. I just literally got off the phone to them before I was on this chat with you. So we're
Really?
sort of organizing the whole thing, and I think it's going to be really special. We've definitely with all these guests for the shows, I've let them pick. They usually pick one from my list, and they join me on that. And then I let them pick any Australian song that's their favorite. And so the
Yeah.
song that the guest has picked is going to be unique to the Adelaide shows. I don't think we'll be doing it anywhere else, and it'll be good.
I think I have a strong idea of who it is.
Okay, good.
Michael, thank you very much for making the time, man. I really appreciate you and best of luck with the shows, dude. I know you'll go out there and smash it. All the best.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, mate. Good to chat.